especially when I come to Pakistan,
The future of nurse anesthesia.
and the scope of practice of a nurse.
What inspired you to come into healthcare system?
And the global things.
Exactly. So a career in nurse anesthesia.
Cambodia.
In countries like Belize, Cambodia and Bhutan, advancing the field of nurse anesthesia globally.
The same in Taiwan. The same in Japan. They want
As a chair of the practice committee for the International Federation of Nurse Anesthetists, could you share what initially inspired you to pursue a career in nurse anesthesia?
So I've always wanted to be in healthcare, and decided when I went to the University of Wisconsin that I want to be a nurse. So I decided to go ahead and go into nursing, and then after I'd been in nursing for a while, I did my PhD and enjoyed my PhD work, but I realized that what I really wanted to do is I wanted to go back and be an advanced practice nurse. Even after I had my PhD, I thought, oh, I miss my practice. And I thought, I want to go back and become a nurse anesthetist. And it was really a good move for me to go back and become a nurse anesthetist. And I still do a lot of my PhD work. I still write grants. But I really enjoyed the practice as a nurse anesthetist.
Wonderful, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you contributed significantly to the development of nurse anesthesia program in countries like Belize, am I pronounced right? Belize, Cambodia and Bhutan. What drives your passion for building capacity in this region?
What drives me in
Yes.
this? So I never expected to be doing work in Southeast Asia. But when I went to a conference in the United States and they were talking about volunteer work, they said, we need people in Cambodia. And I said, okay, I'll go to Cambodia.
Okay.
So I decided to go to Cambodia.
As a volunteer?
As a volunteer. So all of this work is as volunteer.
Exactly.
And University of Pittsburgh does pay me while I do that work, because I often take students with me. But much of that work also is a volunteer.
Wonderful, sir. Love it. Sir, as a chair of the practice committee for the International Federation of Nurse Anesthetists, what are some of the key goals you have hope to achieve over the next few years?
So one of the main things that we've done as part of that committee at this point is we developed the standards of practice for that group. Countries will use that as they're developing the standards of practice for nurse anesthetists. So, for instance, the Cambodia Ministry of Health is interested in using those as they develop the scope of practice for nurse anesthetists in Cambodia. The same in Taiwan, the same in Japan. They want to use those as they develop the role of nurse anesthetist in those countries.
Wonderful, sir. Love it. Sir, So, sir, you taught internationally, including at Harvard Medical University and Mahdal University. What unique insight have you gained from these experiences?
I realized it helped me gain additional knowledge about culture. And I found that when I go to a place, I always enjoy observing the culture, and it makes me reflect a little bit differently when I go back home and I compare my culture in the United States with places that I've been. So at Harbin, it made me think about, how does Harbin compare to the United States and other places that I've been? And Mahidol University, very much the same. So Bangkok, just always interesting to experience that, but then when I compare it to the United States or other places, it gives me a way to look at that culture.
So like culture, people as well.
I found that, I know culture, and I found that when I first started doing overseas work, I would often go ahead and say, Cambodia people do this, and they're always doing this. But what I found is the more that I go places it's not so much, that all people in a country do. I realize there's some culture things, but then there's a lot of individuality that I always need to make sure that I take into consideration.
Exactly.
So I realize that there's a lot of individual differences in people, and especially, when I come to Pakistan, many individual differences. So I can't say that all Pakistani people are the same. There are particular cultural things, but they have a lot of individuality also.
Exactly. Wonderful, sir. Sir, in your opinion, what are the most critical components of an effective nurse anesthesia program, especially in countries with limited resources?
So, one, we have to be specific to what are the needs in that particular country.
Exactly.
So we have to look at what are the types of cases that are being done, what are the resources that they have available to them. If I'm in Laos and I'm teaching my nurse anesthetists, about particular cases, I'm not going to include open heart cases because they don't do open heart cases in Laos. Or they've just started, so they're not going to do those types of cases. So you have to make the learning so it's appropriate for that setting, the types of cases they have, the resources, the equipment, for instance, in Laos they have a particular type of draw-over vaporizer compared to many other countries have a variable vaporizer. So it's very different in terms of some of the equipment that they may have in that setting, and you have to be aware of that cases and what their background is also when you teach.
Exactly. Wonderful, sir. Amazing. Sir, what role does policy making play in advancing the field of nurse anesthesia globally?
So one of the things that policy is related to what is the nurse anesthetist allowed to do in these countries. How do they practice? Do they need supervision by a doctor? Or can they practice on their own? And that's policy that is set oftentimes by the country. Reimbursement. What are the continuous professional development requirements of a nurse anesthetist? So those are many of the things that, we have to think about in terms of policy related to nurse anesthetists.
Wonderful, sir. Amazing. Sir, as a former chair of American Nurses Association Practice Standards Committee, what challenges do you experience in setting standard for the nursing profession?
So what we found is it's always hard to try to decide what is within the scope of practice of a nurse. We want to make sure that the scope of practice includes those things that nurses have been educated for, what seems appropriate for them to do in that particular setting. So those are some of the things that we think about as part of that ANA position.
In position and in different program. Sir, looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of nurse anesthesia, especially in terms of accessibility and innovation worldwide?
So what I keep hoping in, especially in terms of global anesthesia, my goal is to improve access to surgical care in many of the scarce resource settings where we have healthcare. And I think nurse anesthetists can provide very efficient care and safe care, and they can improve access to things like cesarean section or other types of procedures that may not easily be done. The goal is that hopefully they don't always have to go to a large city for care, and that the anesthesia and the surgery can be done in a smaller hospital setting.
Sir, this is a bit different question. So what inspired you to come into healthcare system early in your life?
I think I always enjoyed working with people and taking care of people and helping people.
From very beginning? From
the very beginning. I always knew that I wanted to, and actually early on I really wanted to be a doctor. And then I went to the University of Wisconsin and I thought, I really like the role of the nurse. And a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you come with me and sign up to be a nurse? And I said, okay. So I applied and got into the nursing program.
Oh, wonderful.
And decided this is for me.
And sir, do you think you made a wise decision at that time to choose nursing?
I am absolutely thrilled that I picked nursing. And I never realized, when I became a nurse, I thought, I'll just work in critical care and I'll go back to my hometown and live there.
Exactly.
And I never expected to be involved in policy work, research, faculty. Never expected to do those types of things.
To the global things.
And the global things.
Exactly.
If somebody would have told me, 40 years ago, or when I started nursing, that I'd be in Pakistan,
exactly.
working on policy things with and issues, I would have been very surprised.
Exactly. Thank you so much, sir. It was such a wonderful conversation we did.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
A pleasure. Thank you.